Welcome to the December 6th meeting of the Glendale Housing Authority, being called to order at 3:06 p.m. Madam Clerk, may we have roll call?
Council members, Brotman?
This is housing.
Yes, we have to take, it's joint meeting, so I have to take roll for both, I think.
It's not a joint.
No, first we'll just do the Housing Authority. We have
Okay.
minutes.
Housing Authority member Ajinian?
Here.
Asatrian?
Here.
Divine?
Here.
Kasakian? Najarian?
Here.
Parazian?
Here.
Chair Brotman?
Here. And before we start, let me mention that if you came for 236 North Central, you're just going to have to be patient for a few minutes because we have a housing authority, and then we have a meeting of the successor agency. Oh, yes, I will. And I also want to mention the reason that that seat is vacant is because Mayor Kasakian had a bit of a spill. I don't know if he wants to share details. I'll just say it wasn't a traffic accident, but he hurt himself and he's at home recovering. I spoke to him today and he said he's feeling a lot better, but he isn't going to make it in today. So with that, we will go to the agenda.
The agenda for the December 6, 2022 regular meeting of the Glendale Housing Authority was posted on Wednesday, November 30th, 2022 on the bulletin board outside City Hall.
Thank you. And what's on, I guess we just have an approval of minutes. Is that right? Could you read that into the record, please?
Yes, approval of minutes, minutes of the joint City Council and Housing Authority and regular Housing Authority meetings of November 15, 2022.
Thank you. And any changes to the minutes, or if not,
I'll move the
take a
minutes.
motion.
Seconded.
Second, thank you. Okay, and can we have roll call, please?
Housing Authority members Ajinian,
Yes.
Asatrian,
Yes.
Divine,
Yes.
Kasakian, Najarian,
Yes.
Parazian,
Yes.
Chair Brotman.
Yes, thank you. Now let's see if we have any comments from any of my colleagues.
We,
Staff?
No, sir.
Nothing from staff, nothing from the Housing Authority, any community comments?
we do not have any comments.
Nobody calling in. Okay, then I'll take a motion to adjourn this meeting. Second?
Second.
Okay. The Housing Authority meeting adjourned at 3:09 p.m. And we will now switch over to the special meeting, right? So we'll let our Housing Authority friends,
Excuse me, Chair, did you not have a business agenda item at
Yes.
6A?
We have, yeah, we have a business agenda item, sorry.
oh, my
Prior to taking a
apologies.
motion for adjournment?
We did?
Are we coming back to
just-
Resolution of appropriation.
I'm sorry, I thought we
No worries.
just had,
Of the HUD.
my bad. Okay. Sorry, what do we do now? We got to start over? We have to call.
Reconvene the meeting.
Do we have to do a roll call, or are we okay? How
Did
do
you
we
take
do
a motion to adjourn? Was that,
Yeah.
and was there, okay, so why don't we reconvene,
it? Okay,
take your roll call, and then call agenda item 6A? Let's-
okay, moving too quickly. All right. So we'll take a roll call again.
Point of order is, do I just take roll call for Housing Authority or for the City Council as well?
Housing Authority, this is just the Housing Authority meeting.
Okay. Housing Authority members Ajinian,
Here.
Asatrian, Divine,
Here.
Kasakian, Najarian, Parazian,
Here.
Chair Brotman.
Here. Okay, and I apologize for that again. Would you please read item 6A into the record?
Yes, business agenda, A, community development regarding resolution of appropriation for $432,763 in new HUD Section 8 funding for 27 new Section 8 vouchers for Glendale. 1, resolution of appropriation for $432,763 in new HUD Section 8 voucher funding.
Thank you. And I will turn it over to Mr. Galanian.
Yes.
Thank you.
Good afternoon, Mayor Pro Tem Brotman, members of City Council, Housing Chair Brotman, and members of the Housing Authority. This is one of those sort of news that don't come by too often, and we hear about it once in a long while. As a matter of fact, in this case, it's been 2 decades that we have seen this number of Section 8 vouchers issued, new vouchers issued, and I'm not going to steal Mr. Zovak's thunder, I'm going to let him provide some additional details for your consideration.
Thank you, Mr. City Manager. Mr. Chair, members of the Housing Authority, staff is requesting approval of a resolution of appropriation for approximately $433,000. It is money being given to us from HUD, and it's associated with an award of new Section 8 vouchers that have been allocated by HUD to Glendale Housing Authority, 27 brand-new vouchers. These are not special category vouchers. As you recall, in the past, we've received BASH vouchers, and those are for formerly homeless veterans. We've received emergency housing vouchers for formerly homeless folks. We have a allocation of mainstream vouchers for those that are non-senior developmentally disabled. Those are all temporary type of vouchers that have been issued by HUD. These are actually permanent vouchers given to us that could be used to service our regular waiting list that we have. And we plan on using that to service the waiting list. As the city manager has stated, it's the first allocation of new non-special category vouchers that HUD has given in probably the last 20 years. There are, through the American Rescue Act, they funded 19,000 vouchers across the country for about 2,000 agencies. On average, that's about 9.5 new vouchers per agency. HUD created a weighted formula that looked at households, overcrowded households below the poverty line, extremely low income line, and very low income line, and came up with some other components of that formula. It's not very detailed to us, but they basically weighted those categories and created this formula that then generated these numbers across the country. The minimum number of vouchers that HUD had allocated to some agencies are 4, and the highest, I believe, are about 435 vouchers to the largest agencies. HUD was leery about allocating vouchers more than that to any particular agency because they were worried about, with staffing shortages that we have both here in our own housing authority staff as well as across the country, that being able to utilize those vouchers. And so they capped it. They created this minimum, they capped it at the top end. Some agencies refused the vouchers and turned them back over to HUD, and those might be reallocated to the remaining agencies a little later on in the process. As I said, there's $433,000 associated with these 27 new vouchers. This was not planned as part of the budget, so as a result, we have to have this adoption of a resolution of appropriation to accept the money. And again, we will be using these 27 new vouchers and the funding that comes with it to pull people off our Section 8 waiting list that exists now and start to process them and try and qualify them. If there are any questions, myself, I have Arthur Babolian and Irina Kasabian, who also manage the Section 8 program, to answer.
Thank you. Yes, Councilmember Devine.
Okay, couple questions, Mr. Zovak. First of all, how are they going to be selected, those that receive? What a wonderful Christmas gift, by the way, for 27 families. How will they be selected, from the top of the list or lottery or however? And are you optimistic that we'll be able to find housing for these 27 families?
So as I stated, we'll be using the existing waiting list that was first established back in 2001. At that time, we had over 12,000 households apply. As of last week, I checked on the waiting list status. We still have about 1,885 households that exist on that list still. We will be, and as you recall, when we created that waiting list, certain preferences were given and a point system awarded. So there's a hierarchy that exists in the waiting list. So as we've done for the last 21 years, we will go to those at the top of the waiting list and select the very first one, qualify them, select the next one until we have 27 qualified. So they'd be pulled from the waiting list in order that they rank on that waiting list. In terms of their ability to be able to go out there and secure a unit, once they're issued a voucher, they're given a certain number of days to be able to go out and identify a unit and contract up that unit. We are finding that some of the newer vouchers that we've issued, because of turnover and things like that, tenants are finding having a little bit longer period of time to be able to identify a unit. So one thing we will be doing is we'll be looking at adjusting our payment standard, which plays a large role into the ability of tenants to be able to find units and contract up. We last did that last year, and we did not do it during the pandemic at all. We didn't see a need for it, but last year we did see a need, and now we are seeing a need to be able to adjust it again to provide relief and the ability to contract out.
Great, thank you.
And I think Councilmember Satrian,
I already got answered.
you got it. Okay, Councilman Najarian.
Thank you, Peter. So how many do we have in the 5-point, in the highest point preference category?
As of last week, we had one.
Wow.
Well, I'm sorry, you said 5 points?
Yes.
Actually, we had one that qualified for 12 points. So you remember, if people can update their status at any point in time, that person with 12 points is likely a homeless individual that we will try and steer into the EHV program,
Okay.
which is why they have 12. So if I look at the next lowest category is the 5-point category. At that time, we had 37.
So we're almost through the 5 points. And we
Correct.
still have attrition, correct? Or we have?
Yes, we do. We do.
What is that per year average?
I would say we have at least 4 or 5 attrition every month. Yeah, our program is 90% senior program, so there is attrition.
And then
going
what
on.
does the 4-point look like? How many we have?
608,
Okay.
and then the 3 points are 676.
That's going to take a while. So.
Yeah, so it'll take a while. And what we would do is that we'd probably look at planning, reopening the waiting list sometime around the time of 500 on the list, because that waiting list opening takes at least a year of planning to be able to do. We would have to ramp up, contract out for additional staff for that period of time, make plans for doing it. So it'll be a big endeavor when we do open that up. And we'd be coming to the Housing Authority prior to that to inquire as to what kind of preferences the Housing Authority might want to place, point systems associated with that. And so it would be a year-long planning process before we open up the waiting list again.
Thank you.
Councilmember Satrian.
How often do you update the list?
So since there is attrition on our existing program, there's also attrition on the wait list. And so every 3 to 4 years, we mail out notices to everyone on the wait list, asking them if they're still interested, if they're still around, to let us know. We have to set up an appeal process when we do that. If they don't respond, if letters come back, then we make second and third attempts to contact them. We did that last about 4 years ago. Probably sometime next year, we'd start looking at doing another waitlist purge where we send out information. That itself is a big endeavor as well, to send all that out, to track it, manage it, and then come up and resort the waitlist.
And how many people fall off the list every time you do this every 4 years?
I want to say that we probably had about that last waitlist purge, maybe 400 that did not respond eventually to all the outreach. So it does make a small dent in that number.
Thank you.
Any questions?
Peter, I just want to know, this 27 new vouchers, how much of an increase is it from the last time HUD awarded us about new vouchers? Is it a pretty much high increase, or is it just an arbitrary number?
Well, the last time we did get an increase of vouchers, it was actually special earthquake vouchers that were issued during the earthquake back in the is it late 90s, early 90s. And then after, it was supposed to be a limited time voucher for the for these that suffered from the earthquake. And then it finally HUD just had us absorb it. And at that time, I want to say there were about 70 vouchers. So it's certainly higher to that, but that was because of a actual activity that took place. As I said, this is the first time in 20 years they've just given us regular vouchers.
So this is a good, significant holiday number.
Yeah, and I think, I speculate that HUD might want to see how how quickly these 19,000 vouchers might get utilized, and there might be a second release on down the line, maybe.
Okay. Thank you.
Already member? No, Councilmember Devine, you have another question?
Yes, I just want to, I know we've talked about this before, and that was to have, to revisit an appreciation affair for those apartment owners who are Section 8 contributors. And I know we've done it in the past, and they really appreciated it. If we're going to give them, if it's going to be more funding for them, I think it's good for them to know that. And maybe we can recruit more apartment owners to participate in the program. So I'm just going to kind of reinstitute that request.
Sure, sure. And again, as we staff back up to regular staffing levels, and as I said before, we are down quite a number of staff members. Those are some of the things we want to bring back. During the pandemic, we did receive extra money, and we used those for care packages for both tenants and landlords, so I know that they appreciated that. But I do think that in the near future, it would be good to make direct contact with the landlords again.
And we also had an incentive program. Do we still have that, where we were?
No, we phased that one out. We expended all the money we had set aside for that. No plans to bring that back, especially if we're increasing the payment standards sometime in the near future. We're hoping the payment standard adjustment will be enough to increase involvement of new landlords.
Okay, so you don't think we need that right now? You think this adjustment of the payment standard, which means basically we're going to be allowing higher rental rates,
Correct.
right? You think that's going to be enough to bring landlords to the table so that we have the units we need?
We think so.
Okay.
Certainly, though, we will look at whether or not we need to reevaluate and bring back that incentive program. But for now, we want to focus on the payment standards in the near future.
Okay.
and
I mean, I'd
adjusting
be
those.
interested, and I don't know how long from now this would be, a couple months or
A little bit longer than
whatever,
a couple months.
to make that adjustment and to go
Correct.
out with these vouchers?
Correct.
Well, when it's appropriate, I mean, it would be interesting. I think we would all like to see how it went and you know, whether the tenants that receive these vouchers, how long it took them to find units and that kind of thing.
Sure. And I think that it's increasing the payment standard is kind of, it's good, and it's also difficult because remember, as we've discussed in the past, we're allocated 1,592 vouchers. And that's all we could issue in terms of the number of vouchers, no more than 1,592. But at the same time, HUD gives us a budget as well. And they say, well, whether this budget can fulfill your 1,592 or not, this is all you're getting. So sometimes our budget doesn't allow us to go up to 1,592. Right now, we're in the 1480s leasing numbers right now, and we don't have enough money. We've actually had to ask HUD for additional funding. So every time you increase the payment standard, that impacts your budget dramatically, because at some point during the year, every household is going to have a higher payment standard allocated to them. And so the whole discussion about the payment standard and adjusting it up, it's kind of a double-edged sword because the payment standard, you can adjust it up and you can say, okay, let's help families more by giving them more money. Or if you keep it low, you're helping more families. And so it's a balancing act as well.
Question.
Yes.
When was the last time the payment standard was changed, I mean?
Last year.
Last year. Okay. Thank you.
Okay, are there any calls on this item?
No, there are no calls.
No calls, okay. Okay,
I'll
thank
second.
you. Thank you. So we have a motion and a second,
Oh, seconded.
seconded by Housing Authority Member Perazzian. Thank you. So roll call, please.
Housing members Ajinian,
Yes.
Asatrian,
Yes.
Divine, Kasakian, Najarian,
Yes.
Parazian,
Yes.
Chair Brotman.
Yes. And I think now I can take motion to adjourn, or should we go back?
There's authority member staff comments next, if anybody.
Yeah, we did that, and there were no comments, so I think I'll leave that
Yeah.
there, and there are no other public comments, no general public comments.
No general
Okay.
public comments.
So now I think I'm safe to take a motion to adjourn. Second? Okay. So now we are adjourned at 3:26 PM. And we will